Welcome to the MoxStars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Menace, and I'm here with Flash. Christopher Ritter. What's going on, dude?
What's up? I wasn't sure because I can't hear the sound effects. I wasn't sure when I was supposed to talk.
No, yeah. I got to cue you in. I'm still getting used to them. They're new. They're fun. Make the show a little bit more lively. Welcome in, everybody. It is the MoxStars rocking with you. And if you're not familiar, well, we're the #1 podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper, the home of the mid-range mindset. And if you want to support the show, you can do so by finding us on YouTube. And if you are watching us on YouTube right now, I've got the page open. You can see our most recent stuff. And then you can find us on all major podcasting platforms. You can also join our Discord server and join the conversation that we're going to be having today about Modern Horizons 3. A lot of leaks popping up lately. And I feel like the guy who is in control is just like an IV. You can just see it dripping. You know there's so much more in the bag, and you're like, I want it, I need it. He is controlling the flow expertly, and it just...
Controlling the flow of spice.
Yes. It's feeding my craving. I just can't get enough of it. But you can also support us directly via Patreon. You can become an official Pepperhead for $3 a month. Be a pepper, drink like a pepper. Aye, aye. This is one of those sound cue things. Yes, sir. Be a pepper. Oh, yeah. You can be a Pepper for $3 a month, an official Pepperhead, or you can become a Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead like UWP Quirt and Will Rule, our newest Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead. Thank you guys so much for the support. All right. Well, Ritter, I think we just get right into it, don't we? There's a lot.
Let's go. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. So, as you all...
As usual, this Modern Horizon set is just jam-packed with power, and it is going to... I don't see anything that's going to be as, meta shifting yet, I guess, or maybe I'm wrong, but there's a lot of power here, a lot to talk about.
Well, I think there's a lot of cards that are lateral moves or maybe fit certain strategies better that help niche things pop off. So, even the commons, there's a lot of power at common. There's a lot of power at uncommon. So, yeah, if you're unaware, Modern Horizons 3 is the one product that I've seen that I definitely want to go to a pre-release. This looks like something that I want to buy product. And just to start off, I've been looking at Card Kingdom a lot lately because this is a platform. They're the #1 single distributor for Magic cards in the world. So the thing is that they sort of have a massive influence on the market. Whatever price they set is sort of they can shift markets. They have that type of power. So they have pre-orders up right now for singles, which is kind of crazy because they don't have they're only going off of the official spoilers. So they're saying right now that the most expensive card that you can pre-order are the fetch lands, Polluted Delta, Wooded Foothills, and then right underneath it. Now, Ritter, tell me if you would invest in this. They have Emrakul for $25 as a pre-order.
The new one?
Yeah, the new one.
I don't know. It's obviously powerful, but I don't know if it's what deck are you playing this in?
Anything.
Anything?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I think the mana or the madness cost is a little bit more prohibitive than one may have realized before. It isn't just paying you don't just pay 6 and then you get to cast it for madness. It has to be 6 colorless mana exclusively. So that is prohibitive in a way. Otherwise, you cast it for 12. I think this is gonna wreak havoc in Modern. So for Madness, I think blood tokens are they're just gonna outright ban blood tokens if this card lands on the scene. So it's easy enough to like pop off. There's so many 1-drops that produce a blood token that's going to allow you to sort of push forward and get closer to the madness from Emrakul. I would invest in this for $25. This might be, I think just the name alone is going to pull more value than for just $25. For whatever reason, some cards do that.
Yeah, it's an Emrakul card. They're always valuable, right?
Right. And I think this one is, since it's coming out of such a powerful set at Mythic, I think if this actually goes live at 25 like they've listed, I would buy 4 probably, because I feel like they would sell for close to 50 at launch based on hype alone. And then I'd be able to at least profit a little bit.
Well, how much of this are they printing, right? Like, are they going to print this into the grounds, or like how many copies are going to be out there?
A lot. Yeah. Okay. There's going to be a lot. And well, because it's not just,
you feel like this card's going to hit like 40, 50.
Yeah. I mean, $40 or $50 in Magic Land is sort of different than it used to be. Like, just with how many sets have come out, with how the economy has changed a little bit, and how the value of the dollar and how we perceive it has changed slightly. The political landscape of Magic the Gathering. This $50 card, we can justify a little bit more than we used to. I would never. There are times when I look back and I kick myself for spending so much on cards, but sometimes things feel like more of a sure bet, and this one feels like it would be like a sure bet at, like, if I could pre-order for 25, I would jump on it all day. But yeah, they have other cards that are going up for pre-sale. Flare of Denial for 20. They have Sylvan Safekeeper and Orm's Chant, cards that already exist that already have these like price tags. Sylvan Safekeeper at 15, Orm's Chant at 12. And then, some newer cards like Ugin's Labyrinth, which is the new like soul land. They're pre-selling for $10, So there's some stuff here that is a little bit inflated, maybe a little bit lower than it should be. But regardless, there's a lot of powerful stuff coming out in the set. It's good to see where they value these things immediately so that we can get a good idea of like what it might be at launch, or how others are valuing it, especially powerful entities like Card Kingdom who can control the market in certain ways. Anyway, that being said, there's a lot of new stuff. If you go to a lot of different sources that we use, like we just started using Magic Spoiler, and I've used Mythic Spoiler forever. They don't have a lot of the leaks that we're seeing, so we're actually going to go to Reddit for a lot of the stuff. Wizards of the Coast did release, I think it's 5 or 6 cards yesterday at common and uncommon, and they're all Eldrazi. But they're not really worth talking about in the frame of mind that we're going for, which is like more like CDH and powerful stuff that can impact multiple formats. So over to Reddit we go. We're going to start with the oldest stuff. So if you're listening to this episode, this stuff might be a week new, or a week old, old or new, however you want to see it at this point. And you might have already been able to digest the stuff. But first, we start with... we do have down here the Nesting Grounds, which is a great card. We don't know what this is going to do in Modern, but it's a card that's always been sought after in Commander. It's pay 1, move a counter from target permanent you control to another target permanent. Ritter, do you see this as just like a value reprint? Like, finally, this isn't going to be a $6 land. It's going to be more accessible. Or do you see it as something that, now that we get it in more hands, it might actually do more?
Like, I mean, looking at this card, maybe 5 or 6 does seem appropriate. How many printings has it had?
Just the one. And
just the one? Yeah. I mean, it's going to drive it down, right? If this set is getting printed into the ground and then at uncommon, like, doesn't it drop to like 2 or 3?
Well, here's the thing that a lot of these Commander reprints, so they have this whole section of Modern Horizons 3 that's committed to reprinting Commander only cards into Modern. So like Lelia, Blade Reforged, stuff like that. And this is one of them. So like, I guess the big thing is like, this is a powerful ability that Modern wants. It is now available in a different format. I guess I'm curious to see if like that fluctuates the price at all. Now that it goes into Modern, is this a playable card? Taps for colorless. We need more colorless mana apparently as we move forward in the competitive scene. So does this make it so that you can keep turning over your Urza Saga? Does it increase in value based on it now being accessible to Modern? I guess is the question. But yeah, it's a great card nonetheless. Has definitely seen play in a lot of my Commander decks that I've put together. Anyway, next card. We have a new type of, let's say, fetch land. It's a new type of Evolving Wilds, and it is called Perilous Landscape at common. It taps for a colorless, which is new for Evolving Wilds type lands. Or you can tap, sacrifice it, and search your library for an island, mountain, or plains card, basic, and put it on the battlefield tapped. And then that doesn't stop there. It also has cycling for one of each of those colors, so blue, red, or white. So a lot you can do with this. It is not dead in hand. It is very color prohibitive to cycle it, but it also has the ability to filter. So
I think this is a great card, and it's at common, which is wild. I think this is a great basic fetch, right?
Yeah, I think these become like Pauper All-Stars, honestly.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, these are, I'm guessing we're going to get 5 of these. So honestly, pretty crazy. Like, I know that people undervalued the ones that we got in New Capenna, like the Broker's Hideout, stuff like that. Those are now wreaking havoc in Standard because there's so many landfall decks. But these, like, one, help stimulate landfall strategies, but give you a little bit more flexibility if you need the land now, but you can also sacrifice it later. And then if it's not dead in hand, to be able to discard and pick up a new card. So like you said, these are great. You're gonna see these at the table, whether it's casual, probably not CEDH, but I've been wrong about cards before. So.
I also like this design space because, like, when you're building a deck with real cards on a budget, like, and you don't necessarily have the budget for the fetches right now, like, the downgrade between a real fetch and some of the other options is like so hard. Like, when you're filling those slots in, let's say, like a 2-color deck, and you don't have like the budget for it, there a lot of times like tap lands then come into play, and this is the way to avoid a tap land in your mana base.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And there are we get so many tap lands, honestly, that are sort of restrictive based on like the condition of the board state. So yeah,
and I've come to believe that like tap lands are like one of the ultimate feel bads in this game.
Totally. You're 100% right. They suck. And which is
you're basically doing nothing.
Right, which is why it
sucks.
Yeah, we criticize the lands from Murders at Karlov Manor, the ones that Surveil won, the Surveil, and they have land typings on them, because in a format that cares about speed, a format that cares about, moving forward at all causes and all whatever, you need that mana to come in untapped. You have to be able to find your dual land. So unless the strategy specifically wants cards in the graveyard, you're not going to play those cards. And if you do play them, you still have to find the right opportunity to use them, because even going into turn 1 with tapped, like if you go turn 1, play it, fetch into a tapped land that allows you to surveil one for card advantage, like not having that untapped 1 blue mana means, you can't counter, or you can't, interact in a way that you otherwise would have been able to. So those little nuances make a huge difference in the overall outcome of the game, believe it or not. All right, we're getting another commander card getting reprinted into Modern. This one, I think, is going to, well, it's already low enough, but it's called Curse Mirror. If you're not familiar, it's a really great card. It's unbelievable. It is part of many dockside combos, but for 2 and a red, it is an artifact that taps for a red mana. As Curse Mirror enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste. It's a really great card. I don't know if it, like, coming into Modern is going to change or warp things, just because 3 mana, again, in a format that cares about speed. Don't know if it's super important. We'll see. This is, again, if Curse Mirror is not in any of your commander decks, or if you haven't played with it before, this is going to offer another cheap, like, yeah, this is another card it's just going to drive the price down so that we can see it more commonly at the table. It's great because it can copy any creature on the battlefield, not just one that you control too. So, all right, this is probably the big chunk. We're getting into one of the bigger leaks that happened about 4 or 5 days ago. The first card that dropped from it is called Wrath of the Skies. For X white, you get a sorcery that says you get X energy counters. Then you may pay any amount of energy. Destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with mana value less than or equal to the amount of energy paid. So a board wipe for 2 white mana, you get to wipe all free mana rocks, all treasures, but it is, unfortunately, at sorcery speed. Ritter, how do you feel about, well, in general, board wipes have trouble existing at the highest levels of power. So, one, you have to be able to generate energy. This gives you energy, but most likely you'd rather pay 2 mana so you can keep your curve on point and then have energy in excess to pay. How do you feel about this one? Does it do enough different stuff to earn a place in a deck that you might be building?
I mean, I think that depends on how good energy actually becomes, right?
Yeah.
Because they're dipping into a lot of, like, sources of energy, not just like in this set, but in the Fallout set. Where else did we see energy recently? I feel like we saw it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to make it come back.
Exactly. Like, so this is new design space, and so it's so hard to evaluate anything with energy counters. Because, like, what is the rate that players have them at? What is a good rate for spending energy counters? Like, there really is just, there's not enough data there where I feel like you can tell what the landscape is. Because a lot of the new energy stuff isn't even, like, legal in any format yet. And there's not that critical mass of, like, energy-related cards that do something relevant at this point.
Yeah, it does take time. Like, when the general public gets their hands on energy again, obviously Kaladesh, when it originally was printed and created, it was broken. There were cards that, like, they fixed a lot of it in Aether Revolt. They banned a few things in Standard, but there were cards that existed that made energy a little too powerful. They've balanced that out. They've sort of figured it out, and with all the recent design space that they've been playing in, they've added all these, like, outside elements to the game, and this is one that they let sit on the back burner a while until they could rebalance the game and then reintroduce it. So I think we're getting a much more thoughtful reintroduction to energy. And like you said, you don't really know how powerful it is until we see the full scope. And so, like, even though it's a board wipe for 2 white mana, that if you have energy in reserve can definitely help push, like, what you're able to destroy. I feel like this, destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with mana value less than or equal to the amount of energy paid. This might just be a Super Friends card. Like now that I read that, if they print a planeswalker that cares about energy or generates energy, one of those flip ones maybe, then this could definitely like find a home there. This is since it doesn't seem to touch planeswalkers like at all. Yeah, a really great card. We'll see what happens with it. All right. Next card, they're reintroducing enchantment creatures and the mechanic Bestow. And the first one we're seeing is called Detective's Phoenix. I like this card a lot. It's for 2 and a red. It has Bestow for 1 red mana and collect evidence 6. So a little bit of reference to Murders at Karlov Manor, Detective's Phoenix, evidence collecting, whatever. But it's a 2/2 flying haste. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has flying and haste. You may cast Detective's Phoenix from your graveyard using its Bestow ability. Wow, wow, wee wah. That's a lot of text on a card. Phoenixes are historically, well, they're good. There's some that are bad, but like the ones that are good are format warping. And imagine giving your Ragavan in Modern +2/+2 flying and haste for 1 red mana after you've sort of like the game has progressed. So this I hope this sees play. I like it for like my Shalai and Halar builds because I'm so enchantment focused. This adds to that count. This is also a red source that will be dealing damage to trigger the red terror, and casting an enchantment isn't the worst thing for me since I'm playing Serra Sanctum and Sanctum Weaver. This has purpose. I don't know if it's an aggressive card, if it even sees play in casual commander decks. I think you definitely have to like have a build that wants to include this, like I do. That's why I like it. I can speak ad nauseum about Enchantress builds, but Ritter, any thoughts on Detective's Phoenix?
Nope.
All right. The next card, another enchantment that is lovely, will go into my Kestia build. It's called Amphibian Downpour. For 2 and a blue, you have an enchantment aura with flash. It also has Storm. If you're unfamiliar with Storm, whenever you cast a spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn, and you can choose new targets for those copies. You can enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog creature with base power and toughness 1/1. This might just be the best aura, removal aura that I've ever seen. You just don't get much better than this. Someone can pop off, and then all of a sudden you have 4 targets for this Amphibian Downpour. You get 4 new enchantments on the battlefield. Now this goes against everything, and it's like in CDH, not the greatest thing because you're just adding more to the dockside count if someone catches you with your pants down after casting this. But any enchantment aura that allows you to at instant speed enchant a creature and it loses all abilities is powerful in its own right. You can stop something potentially on the stack and sort of warp the game, keep the game going, save the game from ending. So, Ritter, any thoughts on Amphibian Downpour?
No, I think it's a fun removal card. I think it'll find some homes.
Yeah, for sure. And in casual, this is going to be awesome. Like, I think the more that these types of cards like come out, that's the thing about this set too, is that Modern Horizons 3 will find its way into the casual commander table. And it's for all of those who abstain from powerful cards, you're going to be subject to them because this product will be out there to the masses. People will go to pre-releases. They'll just happen upon these cards. They'll buy a pack. They'll get this card, and you might not like it, but suddenly there will be 8 Amphibian Downpours on the battlefield, and you won't be able to do anything about it. The best thing about auras that do this or have this type of ability is that it nullifies commanders, keeps them from being recycled. So it's essentially like pseudo removal. There is a new legendary creature called Roshin Roaring Prophet 4-mana legendary creature giant shaman that cares about X costs. I don't really see any purpose in continuing the conversation further than that. If you're excited about this card, let us know in the comments. If you think we should expand on it, or if you have thoughts about it, let us know. There's a cute beagle on screen. There is another commander card coming to the table. It is Estrid's Invocation. Now, this one might actually see a bump up in play because it'll end up in more hands. We're going to see more people doing more with it. Estrid's Invocation is essentially Curse Mirror, but for enchantments. It's an enchantment that you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of an enchantment you control, except it has at the beginning of your upkeep. You may exile this enchantment. If you do, return it to the battlefield under your control. So you get multiple ETB effects. You can have multiple heuristic studies. You can have multiple removal spells. Song of the Dryad.
I mean, you can reset the cumulative upkeep on, what's the non-heuristic one?
Mystic Remora?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 Smothering Tithes. This is something that it requires setup, but is also powerful in its own right. Can keep coming in if you're building into stuff like that. There's a new double white pip creature. It's a nod to the old Knight of the White Orchid, but here we have White Orchid Phantom, a Spirit Knight, 2/2 flying first strike. When White Orchid Phantom enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target non-basic land. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle.
I think this is a pretty decent card.
Yeah, I do too. I agree wholeheartedly. This is gonna find homes in blink decks everywhere. If you can keep flickering this and then just drain your opponent's library of basic lands, which you don't have to run basics. You can actually just keep nuking people's lands if you want to. A lot of when you get up near CDH level of competition, there are so many decks that are built around Tainted Pact because of the high ceiling that it has. So if you're able to build a flicker deck that focuses in, when you land this card, focuses in on just bouncing it up and down, you can actually pretty much just keep your opponents clear of all non-basic lands for the rest of the game. There's a ceiling here, and it's pretty high. And not bad for a 2/2 flying first strike. That'll matter.
Yeah, it's a solid card. I think it might see some play.
For sure. We have another legendary creature here. Ashling Flame Dancer. 2/2 red. Legendary creature, Elemental Shaman. At Mythic, it's a 4/4 that says you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. It has Magecraft. Hold on to your pants here, dude. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, discard a card, then draw a card. If this is the second time this ability has resolved, Ashling Flame Dancer deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If it's the third time, add 4 red mana to your pool. This is the mirror to, we have seen how powerful Nissa, Resurgent Animist, is. For 2 and a green, it's landfall with a similar effect. This, I think, has potential. Being able to hold on to the red mana like that, and then also having Magecraft attached to it that'll allow you to keep sinking or keep storing mana, because that in the best thing about the red mana that it adds to your pool after resolving for the third time is that it's not restrictive. Usually when we see effects like this, the mana or the ability is restrictive in some way to supporting its ability. So you can only use this mana to spend, on instants and sorceries. Nope. This is hey, you just get 4 red mana, dude. Have fun. Take care of it. Save it. Spend it wisely. And this is one ability where I think you can spend it in all in one place and blow up the rest of the table, like Meteor Storm or whatever that's called. this effect, you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases ends. Like, we saw it on Omnath originally with green mana. We saw it on Leyline Tyrant from Zendikar Rising, and I think everyone got really excited that that was the second time we really saw that. Like, you don't lose that mana. Crewfix also does that, but it filters it to colorless. So I'm not really sure how powerful this ability can be. It doesn't get a +1/+1 for the mana that is stored. I don't know. What do you think, Ritter? What do you how are you feeling about this?
I mean, it depends on the deck that it goes into, right?
Yeah, this is a full build
Definitely
around.
A powerful ability. I don't know if it requires a ton of build around, but definitely there's not a reason to play this. Like, it's not baseline good enough to just play it, right? There's
Right.
some build around involved, and I'm just not sure what that shell is.
Yeah, there's it's escaping me right now, but there's that 2 mana enchantment that has cumulative upkeep, add red mana to your pool. And then it does something else. I can't quite remember, but that would also find a home here. Probably see, if you go to MTG stocks or whatever, you're probably going to see an increase in price. Braid of Fire, I think is what it's called. Off the top of my head. I don't remember, but it'll allow you to stack mana up as the turns progress. All right. There is a new instant in white called Abstruse Appropriation for 2 and I can't remember. I can't see if it's 2 and 2 white. That's what it looks like. But it says exile target non-land permanent. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled. And you may spend colorless mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. I don't think, honestly, I'm reading it now. I don't think this is good enough to even see play in casual decks.
No, if it were 3 mana, I think it's good. At 4 mana, I don't.
No, yeah, 4 mana is too prohibitive, and also being 2 white pips is also incredibly prohibitive. When you don't really have the ability to ramp that hard and white. So passing on that to the most exciting card that I've ever seen, or that I've seen in a long time. Let's say as soon as I saw this, Ritter, I sent it to you. I love this.
This was late in the evening. I received a text from Evan. I thought, oh my God, is there an emergency? What's going on?
The podcast is on fire.
Yeah, it was a type of emergency. Just a powerful card was spoiled.
Yes, it is called Power Balance. For 2 red mana, you get an enchantment. You know I like those. And it says, whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the 2 spells have the same mana value. And the flavor text says, for every action, a reaction. For every force, a firestorm. This slaps. Now, the immediate response I got from Chris after texting him was,
I was skeptical.
Yeah, not as good as Counterbalance, which you're right. There aren't many cards out there that are as good as Counterbalance. This just says that it looks like it's a really fun card. Like,
yeah, for sure.
The big thing is the reason that I see this having such a high ceiling. One, casting things for free and casting them with while ignoring timing conditions is a very powerful effect. And then the other thing is that when you start scaling up in power and you start reaching the highest heights that you can in CDH, you hit a point where you can't really yes, there are 4 mana cards in CDH. The One Ring is played in every single deck that I can think of. You're not likely going to hit a 4 mana thing, but the high density of 1, 2, 0, and 3 mana cards that exist in CDH is high. There's a good chance that with how dense those numbers are, that you're going to hit off this. It makes if you're able to land this, or if you're able to even tutor for this, using an Enlightened Tutor or something like that, I would go for that. But then I would also, it would be worthwhile to play top deck manipulation in some sense. You can also,
Yeah, maybe Sensei's Divining Top is back.
yeah, like it could definitely see justification. Like, I'm not sure if like Bolus's Citadel is still played in any range, if it's even fast enough now, but you could justifiably, well, the thing is that, like I was just saying with like Enlightened Tutor, there's so many of those 1 mana instant speed tutor to the top of the library cards that a Vamp Tutor into, like, so if someone casts a Force of Will, you can Vamp Tutor and add Naws to the top of the library with this out, and then just cast an add Naws for free. So there are definitely options. Like there's potential here with how prevalent those tutors are to make this card see play. I'm excited for it. Obviously, this probably gets test. I definitely test this out in Shalyn Halar. The one thing that really sucks about this is Drannith Magistrate just keeps getting better, like the more that time goes on. And one reprint I would actually love to see in Modern Horizons 3 is Drannith. I think Drannith needs it, and hopefully we get one within this year or within the next year to allow more players to play that effect or see that effect. And if they don't reprint it, they need to ban it in some way, because they've done it before where like we've had all of the conversation in the world about like Dockside being banned and it not seeing enough reprints, and it's hard to get your hands on, especially since it's creeping up near $100, which is crazy. But Drannith is also like,
wait, what's creeping up to 100?
Dockside.
Oh wow.
Yeah, $100 card. So then we have Drannith out there, not trending nearly to $100, but it is creeping up to 20. But here we go, creeping up to 20. It's not too long before we're creeping to 25. It's not too long before we're creeping to 30. You know, if we don't see a significant reprint, we're not even seeing Drannith reprints in Secret Layers, that's kind of insane to me. I figured an artist would like to, you know, reimagine dude with the crispy fade, you know, and make it their own, but no, nothing. Power balance, Drannith gets stronger. Power balance is a great card. Unfortunately, any deck that's running white is also running Drannith, so take your chances. This is fun. That's the number one thing. I don't know what the end of the day how much play this sees, but more than anything, this is a really, really, really fun card.
Yeah, there's a high ceiling for shenanigans on this one.
Yeah, and that's the most satisfying thing in Magic is like shenanigans. If you're able to accomplish.
Yeah. If you want to just play the game and win a regular way, try chess, I guess. If you enjoy shenanigans, I think Magic is a pretty good game.
Yeah, this is paper-based chess with shenanigans. So, All right. Powerman, I'm so excited for that card. All right, next card is another enchantment. We're getting a lot of these. Ripples of Undeath. For 1 and a black, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards, then you may pay 1 and 3 life. If you do, put a card from among those cards into your hand. I feel like this is casual. The investment of having to pay 1 mana is actually a little bit prohibitive. And I just, you know, like, if it just
there's lots of cards that will give you card advantage if you pay an additional mana during your upkeep, and almost none of them see play.
Yeah,
like if it were just the 3 life, yeah, sure. I mean, you can, you know, proc off this a bunch of times, and you know, with you know, and get 5 or 6 cards off of it, maybe in a game of Commander, but it's that extra mana that is going to keep it from getting played, I think.
Yeah, it's one thing to set yourself up. So, like, this is a 2 mana enchantment. This should come down on turn 1 or 2 so that you can justifiably, like, so you can reason that you would see the ability trigger between 3 and 4 times, or 3 to 5 times in a single game. The thing is, it's triggers at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, so not your upkeep. You're going to be able to see the card you draw before you make the investment. You're going to mill 3 cards, and then this is where, like, obviously paying the mana in 3 life is prohibitive, but again, another prohibitive line of text. If you do put a card from among those cards into your hand, you get a selection of 3 cards that you have to pay mana to decide to keep. Now, if they said, or if there wasn't the pay 1 mana and it was just lose 3 life, this feels like a mono black version of Sylvan Library, if I would go as far as saying
exactly.
that.
If it were straight up just a black Sylvan Library, like it would see play at the same rate as Sylvan Library, maybe. Actually,
I don't
Sylvan,
know if it would.
Sylvan really only sees play because green doesn't have a lot of great, like, that type of card draw.
Exactly.
Whereas black does. I think this is a trash card. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because it's tough. You want to set this up in the early game so you can reliably see multiple triggers. But if you on turn 2 play this, and then you go into your turn 3, you have yet to play a land, so you're going to be down to 1 mana. And then you play a land, you're still stuck playing 2 drops, where you should be building your advantage with the full 3 mana. Does the card that you get, like, help you that much? Or, like, you do have the choice, right? You mill 3 cards, then you have the choice. You did just put 3 cards into your graveyard, so you do feed 1 Underworld Breach cast. I know we said it is those little nuanced things that make the difference to, like, in the outcome of a game. I just think this is too slow and too unreliable for you, or to consider playing. Plus, it contributes to dockside count, and when dockside counts, especially with the Chthonian Nightmare, now dockside count only needs to get to 4, and this, you're just contributing more to someone else winning the game by having this sit on the board. So there's that. It's not a great card, but it is in Modern Horizons 3. Here we go. This is maybe a great card. It's a new goblin called Warren's Soul Trader. For 2 and a black, zombie goblin wizard, pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. It's a 3/3. Another sort of like Skirk Prospector type effect. Doesn't have to specifically sacrifice a goblin, but you do create treasure tokens that are not tapped, and this is searchable with Goblin Matron. So you love to see it. It's a rare. I think it'll see play. It's a sack outlet, even though you do have to pay 1 life.
You can also it's a Protean Hulk piece.
Yeah, that's true too. You can grab this and you could grab this and the activated sleeper off the Protean Hulk trigger, and then have another sack outlet right there for it. So pretty cool. We'll see. It almost feels like Pitiless Plunderer, but a goblin. We have a card from the commander deck. It's called Kaith, Famed Mechanist, for 1 in Jeskai mana. So 4 total. Legendary creature, Dwarf Artificer. It has Fabricate 1 as a 3/3. Other non-token creatures you control have Fabricate 1. You can pay 2, tap, choose 1, populate, or proliferate. The other non-token creatures you control having Fabricate 1 is where I think this could be broken, like, in ways. So, like, be able to, like, if you were to Cloudstone Curio, set up that combo, control the game long enough to get that set up, then you can generate infinite Thopters, essentially. If you're playing, like, Krark Clan Ironworks, I guess it could find a home here as well, because it just boosts your mana. Essentially says every time a creature enters the battlefield, or a non-token creature, you're going to get 2 additional colorless mana. You can chain into some pretty cool things. I think there's combo potential here with this. It requires a little bit of a build around. More thought needs to be put into it. I'm going to skip a few here and go all the way up to a reserved list adjacent card called Primal Prayers. Ritter, have you seen this yet?
Primal Prayers?
Yeah.
It's here we Primal Prayers.
Yeah.
So if you couldn't tell by my response, I had not seen that card yet, and I'm looking at it now for the first time.
All right.
Hey, more energy counters. Rather than paying their mana cost. I mean, I think there's a way to break this. What are the other green energy counter enablers?
We don't know yet. There's that elephant from Kaladesh originally. But if you're unfamiliar with like the adjacent card, it is God, I had it in my head and I lost it right then. Allurin is what it is. So Allurin allows everyone to cast creatures or cards from their hand with mana value 3 or less at instant speed without paying their mana cost. Primal Prayers is similar, but you have to spend energy. You may cast creature spells with mana value 3 or less by paying energy rather than paying their costs, and you can cast it as though they have flash. Yes. I would need to see some sort of infinite energy generator in order for this to like be considered. This is huge energy eater. You still have to like consume a vast amount of energy for this to be effective. And it's only 3 or less. So you are building something that is smaller. If you're able to cheat bigger things out, if it just said you may cast creature spells by paying energy rather than their mana costs, if you do, you can cast them with flash. I would consider the ceiling on this. That means I could cast Emrakul for 12 energy. You know how long it would take to get 12 energy? Take a long fucking time, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of cups of coffee to get 12 energy.
You're telling me. I just don't know why they put the ceiling on this so low, where it's like, I get you want to make an Allurin adjacent card because Allurin's very powerful, and this feels like them being.
I mean, again, I think they're trying to figure out the energy design space. Like, what is a good rate? Like, what is good with this? You know.
Yeah. I really would have liked them to just be like, you can cast creatures with energy instead, and if you do, you can cast them with flash. Beautiful design. Let's see what happens. Because there aren't currently really a lot of like energy, like infinite energy generators, at least to my knowledge. Going up, we're going to go to the next mythic rare, which I think is pretty interesting for Modern, not necessarily EDH, but it's Ocelot Pride. For 1 white mana, you get a 1/1 first strike lifelink with Ascend. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Then if you have the City's Blessing, for each token you control that entered the battlefield this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. Wah wah wee wah. That has a lot of potential stapled to it. Ritter, any thoughts on this?
I think it's a good card. Like you said, for Modern, good card.
Yep. Yeah, this will help mono white weenies get back into the mix. I think that's actually they're having trouble having the color white just being represented in Modern at all right now. So they need a white Ragavan. And this hopefully is it. The one thing that is going against it is that Bowmasters exists in Modern. So unfortunately, this definitely dies to Bowmaster pretty easily. It'd be a hard time for it to get off the ground. Going up. There's a new common that actually I feel like deserves talking about. It's called Evolution Witness for 2 and a green. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Evolution Witness, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. This feels like it has combo potential. Like, whenever something enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this, and then you can sacrifice something, generate mana, and then maybe...
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously an Eternal Witness homage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that card has a ton of loops. Why not this?
Yeah, yeah. This feels like it has loopability. It just doesn't enter and give you that trigger, which is I think
Mm.
where Eternal Witness obviously has the loops. In this,
I mean, but there's tons of ways to put +1/+1 counters on things, right?
there are a lot. Yeah, and just another creature.
Doesn't the Lost Jit, doesn't that do that, right?
It does. Yeah,
Another
and
card
then
in this set.
yeah, there's also or that's from the big score.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, but they have like even Cathar's Crusade would be like, you're playing green white, you now have a justification to play this because whenever a creature enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature or on each creature you control. So I'm sure there's ways to like get this to loop and start up. That's why I think it's interesting. It's not as good or better than Eternal Witness or even the other Eternal one with Eternal Eyes on it. But yeah, this is interesting. I would like to see where it goes in a +1/+1 counter build around. Another Here's a big card for potential CDH play that I think has grounds for seeing play. It's called Disruptor Flute for 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for 2 colorless mana. It's an artifact with flash that enters the battlefield. Choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name cost 3 more to cast. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities.
Yeah, it's kind of on that pithing needle axis, right?
Right, but far more powerful because it has flash.
Yes. I mean, it's an additional mana, but it has flash and it does additional stuff.
It has flash. Yeah, I had to do the soundbite.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't hear the sound effects.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to figure that out. But this is notably Planeswalker removal. This is finally Wizards of the Coast's answer to that. So this will see a lot of play in sideboards in constructed formats. But because most of the time we haven't really, unless you outright counter a Planeswalker, we haven't had the ability to stop them from getting like one activation. But if you don't have a counter spell, this can literally just be that counter spell, essentially. The Planeswalker will still sit there. It is already cast, so it doesn't cost more, but it does prevent other Planeswalkers of the same name from being cast as easily, and then they can't even activate their abilities. So this seems like it has a lot of flexibility, a lot of versatility. I don't know if you can play this in CDH and say just Sisay outright or Kinnan outright. Really depends what you see at the table, but there are definitely creatures in the command zone that have activated abilities or are super low to the ground that will keep your opponents off curve just by making them cost 3 more. So a Mana Crypt, Disruptor Flute, playing against Kinnan feels really good. So we'll see where that goes. A few commons. There's definitely one that's interesting. It's called Thraben Charm. It's a 1 and a white instant. Deals damage equal to, you get to choose one of 3 options. Deal damage equal to the number of twice the number of creatures you control to target creature. Destroy target enchantment, and then exile any number of target players' graveyards. All lines of text are viable. This is seems like a really good common. All right. There's a new land that this is a reprint from Odyssey. Deserted Temple is now available in Modern. It's pay 1, tap it, untap target land. It also taps for a colorless. For all those Gaia's Cradle lovers, it'll be out there.
Finally found a way to break Gaia's Cradle.
Finally. I'm going to scroll past Spymaster's Vault. I don't really see the connive thing really being that great. We have a new Eldrazi Fungus, sowing Mycospawn, that allows you to unconditionally search for a land card and put it onto the battlefield untapped. Don't know what that does yet. That is just below, as far as like cost goes, this is far cheaper than Primeval Titan for a similar, half as powerful effect. So maybe this sees play in that. It also has a kicker for 1 in a colorless that allows you to exile target land. So potentially, if you spend 6 mana, you can exile an opponent's land in Modern that would, like upset their like the Tron construction, stuff like that. Let's keep rolling. Here is the uncommon that I think most people are excited about. It's called Marionette Apprentice. For 1 in a black, you get a human artificer that's a 1/2. You love that stat line. Survives a Bowmaster. As Fabricate 1, whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. This is like, we know Marionette Master is a little bit higher on the mana value spectrum, but this comes in at 2 mana, searchable, Teom, target. Whenever the thing that gets me is whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. This is essentially it's not Blood Artist, but it is the one from Zendikar.
Zulaport Cutthroat.
There you go. It's Zulaport Cutthroat, but far more expansive because it also includes artifacts. Doesn't include itself, so when it dies, it won't trigger. But it is very good in the sense that treasure loops, sacrificial loops, stuff like that are going to set this thing off. It is going to whittle life totals down incredibly quick. So this will be one of those sought-after Pitiless Plunderer type cards. I'm really excited for it. I think a lot of people are. I think Guy was saying that he's going to run this in Dargo and test it out. So keep your eyes peeled. Next, this is a rare that currently Card Kingdom is selling this for 50 cents, or they have the projection at 50 cents. It is called Devourer of Destiny. For 5 and 2 colorless, you get an Eldrazi 6/6 that has a pregame action. You may reveal this card from your opening hand. If you do, at the beginning of your first upkeep, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards back on top of your library, exile the rest. When you cast this spell, exile target permanent that's 1 or more colors. I like this card. I think that for 50 cents, you are getting a steal in, like, if I'm going to call my shot on a card, this isn't investment advice, but for 50 cents, I'm willing to buy about 16 of these and just see what the hell happens. Because I feel like in Legacy and in Modern, this effect as a pregame action is going to matter. And this will be one of those things. It's one of those cards that seems like it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, in those formats, like, card density matters so much. And so you're basically, like, this card does get you to manipulate your top deck as a pregame action for free.
Yep.
But then it's going to be a dead card unless you have something you can do with it once it's actually in your hand and you're playing the game.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's
pitchability.
pure upside in that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's another thing, is that it still sits in your hand. This is going to be like, there are other, like, obviously other cards that have pregame actions that are far more powerful. Gemstone Caverns actually becomes a permanent on the battlefield that contributes to, like, speeding the game plan up. Like, all of those ley lines, they come down as permanents that affect the board state, affect the game state. This gives you card selection at the beginning and or at the beginning of the game, and then exiles multiple cards at the same time. So, like, the ceiling of this is you're playing Food Chain and you exile Squee. You exile something off the top. That is Christmas Land scenario, where, let's say, in the top 4 cards of your library, Christmas Land is happening. You see a Food Chain, you see a Squee, you keep the Food Chain on top, you exile the Squee, and then you're off to the races. Like, ideal scenario. That is so small of a chance that I don't know. I don't think it. I think it's going to matter more, not in Commander, but matter more in, like you said, decks that are concerned with card density. This essentially takes a card. It takes 4 cards, 3 cards out of your library. So you do get like greater percentage chances of certain hits, like as you're drawing. But like I said, at 50 cents, I would be willing to call a shot on this and buy a bunch and see if they go up to $5 as people try to like test it out and play it. So I think that cards that take cards out of the library or technically reduce your deck size are valuable, just because it creates, like you said, a card quality density, but you also still have to hit this in your opening hand. So do you mulligan for it? I don't know. We're getting another mythic rare here. Next card, reprint from Commander. It is Kali of the Vast. Will finally be available in Modern. Plus, it'll drive that frickin' price down. Just crazy how Kali, no matter how many reprints it sees, is still very expensive. There's a new card that I feel like has combo potential. It's called the Necrobloom, a legendary creature plant for 1, a white, black, and a green for a 2/7 that has landfall. It is Field of the Dead on a creature. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/1 green plant creature token. If you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie instead. Land cards in your graveyard have Dredge 2. That is the important part here, is that Dakmor Salvage is already a combo card for Gitrog Monster. You can play Gitrog in here, obviously, but this makes all of your lands Dakmor Salvage +1. So who knows what this is? Is this a control deck that focuses on sacrificial outlets to get where it needs to go? I feel like turn after turn, a fetch land generates you 2 plant tokens. So there's definitely something to be done with those, Eldritch Evolution or something of the like. You could potentially see there's an enchantment out there. It's pay 1 green mana, sack a creature, and then reveal cards from the top of your library until you hit a creature. So there could be some filtering done with that as well. Necrobloom seems good. Now we're getting into some juicy bits here near the end of the show. We have 6 split from Ren. For 2 and a green, you get a 2/4 legendary tree folk that has reach, and whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. As long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. If you're unfamiliar with retrace is you can discard a land and cast the spell with retrace from your graveyard. So all non-land cards having retrace is significant, especially when 6 can attack, mill cards, and then put a land into your hand for you to discard to be able to cast them. There's some loop potential here, right? Yeah, this feels like one of those really well-designed, self-fulfilling loops. Like, I really like the design, like, from this. I don't know.
Yeah, throw a Life from the Loam in there and some of the other stuff, and you're off to the races, I think.
Yep. Necrobloom and 6 going in the same deck. All right. We have now probably the most, the conversation was stirred the most by this card. We were all very curious what the white flare would do, and we finally found out. Flare of Fortitude. 2 and 2 white. Instant speed. You may sacrifice a non-token white creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Until end of turn, your life total can't change, and permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. Ritter, this is really good. I love this. Well, I've loved being able to cast things without paying their mana cost for a long time. Obviously, Force of Will. It's a great card. Sees a lot of play. This has me conflicted. Like, I'm conflicted because it isn't a full Angel's Grace effect.
Nope.
Like, That is what
It's sort of Angel's Grace, it's sort of Teferi's Protection, but it's neither.
That's my problem. That's why I'm conflicted, because even though I did,
or it's sort of flawless maneuvers, you know.
That's exactly how what I see this as, is a flawless maneuver. Like, your life total can't change, and permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. So, like symmetrical loops that deal damage to all players, you could maybe find something with this, but it's such a small chance that you have both cards at the same time. The big thing that I was curious about before I learned about what this card did was whether or not it would be an instant or a sorcery. I love that it's an instant, because like I had said prior, that Academy Rector decks in general, Arena Rector 2, they need sack outlets that do things, that help like protect the win or just get the creature off the board. Like, I was playing collateral damage for a long time when I was playing Zakama for Food Chain. So Academy Rector, the best thing that you can do, like, I know a lot of people are playing Reckless Rage because it deals 2 damage to a creature you control. That can be countered. That can be interrupted. But sacrificing as an additional cost doesn't create that room for your opponent to really interact with the Academy Rector going to the grave and getting that ability to trigger. The only thing that can stop you at that point really is an opposition agent or an Aven Mind Sensor. So it reduces the window for your opponents to be able to interact with Rector lines. The thing is that when you sacrifice, so Guy was like, we were talking about this card in the Discord, and we were just trying to figure out the way that the like abilities stack. And we found that the official ruling is that if a creature's ability would trigger off of being sacrificed as an additional cost, the ability goes on top of the spell. So you cast Flare Fortitude, it goes on the stack, and then whatever triggered abilities go on top. So Academy Rector is going to go on top. You go and you likely are searching for Food Chain, or in a particular instance where you're playing Arena Rector, you're going to go get probably your Vivian, and it comes down, and then Flare Fortitude resolves, allowing you to give your permanents hexproof and indestructible. So in a way, it protects the win, but the flare still has to resolve on top of that. So before it resolves, your stuff will be sitting there sort of unprotected. If your opponents have interaction, they're likely going to use it then. A Beseju is going to be your worst enemy here. This card just doesn't do enough. It says a lot because like you need a full Teferi's Protection effect for free at instant speed in order for it to be viable. You need a full Angel's Grace effect at instant speed in order for it to be viable, including the split second aspect of it. Or you needed a silence effect at instant speed for it to be viable. And we got a mix of 2 of those cards that makes
you need the full effect for any of those things to be good. And a bit of the effect isn't good.
Yeah, this feels like a fragmented, like they just said, well, we'll take a piece of this and the piece of this, and we'll put it together, and it'll make this new white piece of shit. I don't want to say this is bad, because this is going to see a lot of play in casual Commander, and this is going to see a lot of the people are going to test this for Arena, for like Rector decks, no matter what. So where it sits, I don't know. There aren't a whole lot of white non-token creatures that you want to be sacrificing. Usually if you're playing them, it's because they either have, like, Ranger Captain of Eos has a sacrifice ability on it, and you don't want to sacrifice for this effect because the Ranger Captain effect is just way better. You are probably playing Drannith Magistrate if you're in white. You don't want to sacrifice that for this unless it's absolutely dire. what other white creatures, like I play Eidolon or Rhetoric. I don't want to sacrifice my Eidolon to cast this because it lifts the gates for the opponents to like then storm off or do whatever they want. There are a lot of white creatures that, if they're worth playing, are controlling the pace of the game. And in order for you to sacrifice something to this, you're lifting the gates. You're probably, I know Sarah's Ascendant would be one card that I guess is more aggressive in like Tymna builds, or sacrificing Tymna for this. I don't know if you would do that though. So it's in this weird right in between of being good and excellent and being useless for the needs of white players in CDH. So
yeah, I think it's just a little too nerfed. Like, this card could be extremely busted, and they just corrected it too far in the other direction, maybe.
Yeah. Even split second on top of this effect would have made it viable. Just having the ability for it to not, I guess, be countered is really all that I would request. But regardless, we have something new, moving past Flare Fortitude and how either disappointing or exciting it is. We have MDFCs back in the fray, like back, and we're going to see, well, like now they're exploring the design space of the Bolt land. So the two here that I'm looking at, there is another one, but Bogart Trawler is 2 and a black goblin creature that when it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. So it's a Bojuka Bog, essentially attached to a creature, another Goblin Matron searchable card, because it can also be like Goblin Matron can now search out essentially a Bojuka Bog, or search out a land if you need it. So on the backside, it's Bogart Bog. As it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for a black mana. That was text exclusively reserved for mythic rares in Zendikar Rising, and now we're seeing it on uncommons. So I think this actually lends to these cards being playable. Regardless of it, like paying 3 life sometimes feels bad. You need to have the ability for these, like, that's the problem I have with, like, even though the upside on Malakir Rebirth is high to be able to reanimate or essentially keep a creature from dying, the tapped land on the back is oftentimes enough to make me not like play it as a land.
I mean, as we said at the top of the episode, like a tap land is like one of the ultimate feel bads in this game.
Yeah. The other card that is in that I'm showing on screen right now is Slink into Stupor. It is essentially a counter spell that doesn't counter, but it's 1 and 2 blue. Return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand, and it has the same sort of like land on the back. You can pay 3 life to have it enter untapped. Now, it's important. Some things can't be countered. This doesn't do that. It just pushes the spell back to hand. This is sort of reprieve in a way. It just costs, 1 and 2 blue instead of 1 and a white. I don't think that'll see play. It's very powerful. Again, I'm happy they're exploring this design space, because you do need untapped mana in order to see play. We're scrolling right past the Jace the Mind Sculptor reprint, the Foxy version, to go right to the next MDFC, which I think is far more powerful than the other two. It's called Waterlogged Teachings. For 3 and a hybrid Dimir mana at instant speed, search your library for an instant card or a card with flash, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Another tutor for Tainted Pact is what I see here. I don't know if this finds a home or it finds that slot. Could it because most of the time when you're playing, if you're playing Tainted Pact lines, you're oftentimes playing turbo or you're playing a lot of the fast mana. Can you play this as the land on the backside as you set up with your fast mana? And does it hurt you? So in order for a card to be viable, it also has to be like all of its modes have to be relevant. And this one doesn't have, so I don't have the image of the back right now, but it doesn't have the text that allows it to come in untapped for 3 life due to it being able to tap for a blue or a black. So it has color flexibility. The land will enter tapped no matter what, but on the front side is a 4 mana instant that allows you to search for any instant or card with flash and put it in your hand. This is a Hullbreaker Horror tutor. This is a Tainted Pact tutor. This is a Counterspell tutor. This is a lot of different things for 4 mana. So, Ritter, is the tapped mana too prohibitive?
No, I mean, not in all cases. Like, I've played Malakir Rebirth where it was warranted. I mean, I don't know if the tutor effect, especially at 4 mana, is powerful enough. Like, the combination of all the things don't clearly add up to something like super good. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, the combination of the combination of a tutor effect plus a land, very exciting. The combination of this specific tutor effect and the land being a tap land, less exciting.
I think it's a card that makes you go, ooh, and then you start thinking about all the ways that you can use it. And at the end of the day, you just can't find a slot for it. So I see the ceiling. I see its potential. I hope that it finds a slot because it looks like a really fun card. It looks like it has great design space. Are there ways to cast mana value 4 or higher for free? Or if there's value in casting spells that high, you can also play you could play this in Nimrus Control and you actually see a lot of success since you just sit back on your, you usually play a land and pass. And then if you're sitting on all this open mana and nobody does anything warranting a counterspell, roll right into this and set yourself up for the win. Perfect. I think that's the perfect use for this card. You are sitting back, you're waiting for others to move in order to interact, and then you just kind of take it from there. But like I said, another we'll wait and see type card. The next card is very interesting. Another reserve list adjacent card. We have Wheel of Potential. For 2 and a red, it's a sorcery where you get 3 energy counters and then you may pay X energy. Each player may exile their hand and draw X cards. If X is 7 or more, you may play cards you own exiled this way until the end of your next turn. We don't know how good energy is. I think that's where we can put this one.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that nerfs this card is that it's each player may. You're not necessarily clearing out your opponent's hands. Well,
imagine if X was 0. 3 mana, everyone exile their hands.
Yeah.
They put that safeguard on it because I feel like they know that they're not designing the set exclusively for Modern.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if this was a set exclusively designed for Modern and you played this 3 mana, you have to spend 2 in a red to cast spell that says I can pay 0. We both lose our hands.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would be fine. But because
honestly, I think Wheel of Misfortune is a better card.
Yeah, me too.
Which ultimately means that Wheel of Potential is not that good of a card.
Not a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo! Oh wait, I get to use this. I get to use this drop.
Oh brother, this guy stinks.
I heard that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh damn. Okay, I'm gonna try and work these around. Maybe you can only hear a certain part of the board. That's the new theory.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
All right. We did see these uncommons, or I did talk about these at the top of the episode about these official Wizards of the Coast spoilers. They're doing an adjacent to Sarkhan's Unsealing, calling it Kozilek's Unsealing. And for 2 and a blue, it's a devoid enchantment that says whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4, 5, or 6, create 2/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn that you can sacrifice for colorless mana. It also says whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, draw 3 cards. It's cool. It's a really cool design at Uncommon. Sarkhan's Unsealing is very similar, but it deals... whenever you cast something with 7 or greater, it deals 7 damage to each creature and each opponent. So, or 4 damage. It does cool things. The last card we're going to talk about today was just spoiled yesterday, or just leaked yesterday. It is a new version of Eladamri. It's Eladamri Corvik-Doll. For 1 and 2 green mana, you get a legendary elf warrior at Mythic Rare. It's a 3/3. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. You can pay a green, tap 2 untapped creatures you control, reveal a card from your hand or the top card of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, put it onto the battlefield. Activate only during your turn.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good card.
This, yeah, I ETB effects... ahoy, like, let's go. Set up your dorks. For 1 green mana, you get that Elvish Piper effect, but you get to, like, this is notably 1 mana less than Elvish Piper. It has way more upside because you can just rifle creatures off the top, and there's no restriction to that. And you have the ability to continue to drop creatures from your hand, or for free, drop them from the top of your library. The thing is that it doesn't require, like, this needs to have haste or have gone through summoning sickness to be able to activate, but you can tap 2 untapped creatures, which means those creatures could have entered the battlefield this turn. So you can cast creatures off the top of your library during the same turn that you want to activate this effect, and sort of, yeah, there's chain ability. You can chain the effect here, and notably, you don't have to reveal a creature card. You can reveal any card in your hand. You can just pay a green, activate this effect, tap 2 untapped creatures, and just say, hey, look at this cool card in my hand. And and that could be the effect. So
What kind of sick mind games are you playing?
Yeah, it's goofy, but it's goofy and powerful. Does this make people want to play mono green? I don't know. I think that the mono green commander that gives everything flash is already way better than this. But it's unique. I don't know where it goes.
You're talking
about.
Yeva.
The other thing that's notable with all of these cards that we're showing today is that all cards from Modern Horizons 3 are going to be playable on Arena. So danger. Get ready to see this drop on Arena and crush your face. All right, Ritter, we have one last thing to do before we hop off.
Okay.
We have to spin our Wheel of Fortune here, our picker wheel. All of the people who have entered are represented here. I even scrambled and randomized the order so that names aren't sitting next to names. Hopefully, it gives everyone an equal shot. Today, we're giving away this Trouble in Pairs. So thank you all for sticking around to the end of the show. Let's go ahead and spin this wheel. Woo! Congratulations to Tybalt's Apprentice. Entered on Instagram. You have won yourself a Trouble in Pairs for free. I'll be in touch soon. We'll get that out to you. And again, congratulations. If you would like... Oh, so here at the end of the episode, if you were unaware, you can also enter. We have bi-weekly giveaways, and you can enter these giveaways, get a free entry by becoming a patron of the show, becoming an official Pepperhead. I'm going to do that drop.
Being a pepper, dream like a pepper. Aye, aye.
And you can also you can get 2 free entries into each bi-weekly giveaway by becoming a Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead like UWP Quart and Will Rule. Ritter, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, let's get out of here. I think we have talked extensively about Modern Horizons 3 spoilers today.
Yeah, this is probably our longest episode ever. So this is everything. Everything from the MoxStars podcast. We talked about it all. This is the number one podcast on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper. We're also the home of the Mid-Range Mindset. Feel free to support us on YouTube by liking, subscribing, and staying tuned by ringing that bell for more notifications. Support us on all major podcasting platforms. You can leave us a 5-star review, make us look really cool, and join our Discord server where we're going to be having a conversation about Modern Horizons 3 as it all comes out, since the set seems so spicy. And stay tuned for next week's episode, and we'll catch you later. All right.
Bye.
Peace.